Hello folks, Pastor Steve Damron, and our theme for the year in 2021 is integrity. And we're coming into the month of October, and the thought that we're trying to consider is being responsible. There's a funny story told by a president of a health network from Georgia. He tells how he, in getting up to his spot, he's in upper management, but he was talking about when he wasn't in upper management and he worked just on a floor. And he tells a funny story. He worked in a hospital where a patient knocked over a cup of water. It spilled on the floor beside the patient's bed. The patient was afraid he might slip on the water if he got out of bed, so he called a nurse's aide to come and mop up the water. The patient didn't know it, but the hospital policy said that small spills were the responsibility of the nurse's aide, while large spills were the responsibility of the hospital's housekeeping group. So the nurse's aide came in and looked at the small spill and considered it a large spill. And so then they called the maintenance department and they came, and the maintenance department looked at it and was like, no, I think that's a small spill, not a large spill. So they're sitting there arguing, and here's this guy sitting in his bed, and finally he got sick of them arguing, so he had a pitcher of water sitting next to him, and he picked it up and he just dumped the whole pitcher of water. And he looked at both of them, and this is what he said. He goes, is that a big enough puddle now for both of you to decide? Because they were sitting there arguing. Now, what was the problem? It was responsibility. The Bible in Luke chapter 16 says this: he that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much, and he that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much. If therefore ye have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to your trust the true riches? So what is God trying to tell us? He's trying to tell us that God has given us a responsibility, sometimes with little things. And He's watching to see how we handle that, to see if He can give us more. Our challenge to us as a church is to be responsible with what God has given you. So how have you been responsible over the past month, over the past 2 months, maybe over this past year? God has given us a responsibility to share the gospel. In our church, we just finished up a fall campaign. So how have we done on that? Do we use that opportunity, that ability to go out and hand tracts out, get invitations out to talk about Christ? Have we used that properly? That's our responsibility. When God sees us faithful in those responsibilities He's given us, then I believe God is happy, He's glorified. Then also He says, that person is trustworthy, I can give them more. We need to learn to be faithful. We need to learn to be responsible with what God has given us. One man, in thinking about this, said this: it's been said that the line between childhood and adulthood is crossed when we move from saying it got lost to I lost it. How many of us have shifted the blame, and it's very common in our society to not be responsible for what we've done. But at some point, we have to own what we've done, take responsibility, and then what's amazing is God, in His wonderful grace and mercy, forgives us. And He allows us, because He knows that we're made of flesh. He knows that we're going to make mistakes. But when we own those mistakes, you know what happens? God can use us. God can help us to learn to be more responsible, more like our Savior. Our Savior is a great example of responsibility. So let's take the month of October to consider, are we responsible as Christians?